Dear participants of the Baltic Development Forum Summit and the EUSBSR Strategy Consultation meeting. My name is Risto Veivo. I'm a development manager at the city of Turku and chairman of Commission on Environment at Union of Baltic Cities. It's my pleasure to be your moderator for this session, and the title of the session is Smart Solutions for Smart Cities. Smart cities is quite a buzzword at the moment. I don't think that we will find a single city in the Baltic Sea region or in Europe that would not like to be or that would not aspire to be a smart city. But what does being a smart city actually mean, and what kind of an elements is a smart city constructed of? What makes a city smart? This session will look into how the existing smart cities concepts can be adapted to a Baltic Sea region context. We have recognized that in our region there are pioneering, exciting, successful smart city pilots and projects. However, so far these projects are more like pockets of smartness in a large region. And at this session we want to ask the question that can we move beyond the pockets of smartness towards making the Baltic Sea region a recognized global forerunner in smart urban solutions. We'll try to identify the key success factors for smart cities and discuss how experience sharing and regional collaboration between the cities, but not only between the cities, between other development organizations, the private sector, businesses, universities and research. How can this cooperation on smart urban solutions, how can it be enhanced? How can we better use it for the benefit of the whole region? We have 3 keynote speakers, and then we have a panel of experts, of senior experts representing different points of views to the topic. And I hope that this will give us a good basis for an interesting discussion, and all of you are warmly welcomed to take part at this discussion with comments and questions. And the session is also translated between English and Russian, so you can take part in both languages. The first speaker is Professor Rudolph Giffinger from Technical University of Vienna. The title of his presentation is Global Trends and Elements of Smart Cities. Professor Giffinger and his research team were among the first in the world to develop and publicize the concept of smart cities around 10 years ago. And also today, his work continues to lead the way how smart cities are being defined, analyzed, and evaluated globally. Professor Giffinger, please take the floor.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, hello, good afternoon. My name is Rudolph Giffinger, as I was already introduced by Veivo Risto, and I would like to thank him very much for this introduction and short description. However, we started with this term smart cities in 2007. It's some years ago, and it has become a buzzword, of course, and so it's a pleasure to me to have this opportunity to give you some to give you some idea or some hints what we mean by smart city and how we try to implement smart city development in European cities. In order to do that, I would like to follow this structure of my presentation. It's a very short introduction. What are the main trends and challenges which are very often used or typically used for this smart city discussion. And then, of course, we have to ask what are the features of a smart city. There is a wide range of understandings behind, and I would like to work out, to elaborate some of these basic features and to give you some idea what is meant by technical, analytical understanding versus an integrative understanding, and to give you some hints or some information about the understanding of the one or other city in Europe. And finally, to come to some conclusions. There is this discussion is mainly based on three arguments. The first one is this unbroken trend of urbanization, which is characterizing the urban development in many European cities, but it is most of all a big issue and a big challenge at this Indian subcontinent or in Southeast Asia. There is, on the other side, this argument to become more competitive, which was already the discussion today in the morning session, and how to increase competitiveness. And under this perspective, it comes up this idea to improve infrastructures, to modernize urban development based on IT and other new technologies. And finally, it is this discussion how to react and how to cope with this increase of mobility and the changing patterns of mobility. It's not the time here to go into detail what is meant by changing patterns of mobility, but this is a dramatic change over the last 20 years, and coming out from these three trends, you can imagine we have different challenges which could be, some of them are here listed up, but this list can be continued if we talk about urban challenges in our days and only looking on European situation. So it has to do with more efficient use of infrastructure. It has we have to discuss the mobility conditions. We have to cities have to look for a better positioning in the European context in order to improve their competitive situation. And it finally, and last but not least, it is most of all the question how to strengthen sustainable urban development. So what is very important, this I like very for that reason I like very much this last presentation of today's morning session of the Minister of Environment from Finland, who argued it's not anymore how to decouple economic growth and environmental issues. It is the question how to combine it, how to make a green economy, and how to organize economic growth with this trend of urbanization, and with basically and finally how to reduce emissions through the use of modern technologies. So it is, and we know that on a global level, it's more than 50% already living in cities, and it will continue in this direction. So it's most of all a key challenge for the cities. Come on. Oh yeah. So, and of course there was this discussion on urban development challenges was even taken up by different direct general what is it? DG direct the general directions from the EU Commission that that they took up this issue how to change our economic development, and you know this three goals of 2020, current trend on how to reduce greenhouse emissions, how to increase the share of renewable sources, and how to reduce energy consumption. The last one, the reduction of energy consumption, has become the most challenging one. It's not easy to reach this goal. However, it was by the DG Energy, it was acknowledged that this is not only a technical issue. It has to become a more intersectoral challenge, and what is indicated here, that one has to look not only on technical issues, but to integrate, to look on households, public sector, industrial sector, and how to combine it. So this was a very important step to say we have not only to look for technical solutions within certain sectors, but to have a more integrative view on this challenge. And starting with it, or coming from that perspective, we, at the same time, we had an upscaling process of discussion from the buildings, from the sectors, to the districts, and finally to the cities. And it finally came out even from, and was the political support, this idea, we have to talk about smart cities. So it has become a very prominent word. Everyone is talking about smart cities today, but it is used in very, very different ways. So I want to go a little bit into detail what is meant by that and how what we can learn from these different understandings. Basically, it comes from the information city. This means using new ICT innovatively in an innovative way, how to implement that, and it is the belief in a wired ICT-driven form of development, and it stresses the integrated database for city governance. So it is even touching the question of governance. So it has become a really buzzword. This was pushed by many different programs. In the meantime, on the European level, it was the DG Energy. It is still a buzzword, and the idea in Horizon 2020. But you have specific programs even on the national level. Like in Austria, we have such programs since 2010, 2009, 2010. So, of course, there are different features which come into mind if we talk about smart cities. It is the energy efficient city, it is the integrative city, it is the technology-driven city, and one aspect which is often not discussed is it is boosting control, because it has a lot to do with sensoring and with the use of new ICT media and the sensoring of and monitoring of flows and activities. So this is a picture elaborated by Nam and Pardo, which I like very much. It shows how different are the approaches behind this idea of smart city. There is more the technical point of view, emphasizing technical factors. There is the other one emphasizing human factors. It comes to the creative, the learning city, the knowledge city. Or on the other side, and the third perspective is more, the emphasis is more on institutional factors, asking for corresponding governance approaches. However, the basic idea of the smart city is the integration of all these different elements. And you see, it's not easy then to understand what we mean by that. And of course, if we look on the empirical side, how cities are dealing and understanding their own approach, my experience is that we can see 3 or 4 different understandings. The first one is the pure technical one. The second one is the data-driven understanding. The third one is the understanding as emphasizing technical and economic innovations. And the fourth one is the place-based and understanding in which learning processes have a prominent meaning. So what does this mean, and which cities can we associate to such understandings? Very quickly, this is the pure technical understanding in my point of view. It's you have here a definition which shows or which emphasizes that diverse technologies have to be combined in order to reduce environmental impacts and offer citizens a better life. But what better life? Which better life? For whom a better life? This is not a really answered question in many cases. Yeah? It has to be ICT-centered with different aspects. And of course, I guess you know this idea of smart city, which is completely newly built in Abu Dhabi, this master city, or on the other side, if you look on the homepages of different international enterprises, you always see this new wonderful world with sensors and with high-rise buildings and green areas in between. So, but for whom and in which dimension? Oh, sorry, this one. In this discussion, there is a more analytic understanding which comes from regional science, and this is a publication of Michael Betty and other mobility planners and urban planners, prominent urban planners, and they see the smart city discussion most of all as in a traditional model between science and the function of research on the one hand side, and this has to become a decision support for participative processes and finally to find relevant urban governance models for urban development. And the smart city idea is reduced to these two fields on sensing and networks, including social media, and it is most of all focusing on this idea of integrated databases for the smart city. And this is therefore, it is a relative narrow definition of smart city. It's clear how to understand it in that way, but it is a pure data-driven understanding. It is a more structural description, not asking for the impacts on urban development, on political or social movements, which could be enabled through new technologies as well. Two examples. One is taken from South Korea, the Busan city, which is decided to have such a data-driven model, organizing the different sectors of communities, of urban green mobility, of energy resources, of safety and security, etc. So this is a clearly data-driven understanding. It's a little bit different in Shanghai. This is the entrance of a community center, which is organized by a local university, offering very specific services to older people, aged people in the local neighborhood in a really intelligent way. So it has even a strong social aspect which is based on that idea. So, okay. There is, of course, we can have more ideas on such activities and how this is organized in certain cities. On the other side, if you look on the academic discussion, there is a lot of critics which argues on the one hand side that censoring produces a lot of data which provokes the gläserne Bürger. This means it has to do with the censoring of our private life and the problem and the risk of the misuse of data. The gläserne Bürger is the German expression for that. It is, of course, censoring improves the real-time description of phenomena, steering flows. It is, which is could be very important in the mobility management. However, on the other side, we see that there are more complex effects which might occur, and this is on the one hand side the lock-in effect. If a city is doing a huge investment, it is binding and defining the future development based on a certain kind of infrastructure, which in many cases is then owned by private enterprises. So it comes to a completely new definition of private and public. It produces rebound effects which are sometimes counterproductive because we change our behavior based on the reduction of energy costs, but producing other energy costs through our changed behavior. However, and we can continue this list of critics. The third understanding is the clear understanding how to come to innovation. It was already mentioned this morning. This has to do with the triple helix, and it was a group and the project by Mark Deakin and others, not talking about the triple helix, but the multiple helix, which you see on the right-hand side. This means that we have to integrate not only the three basic institutions, but to see it more as a place-based process, very important approach from our point of view. There was a project, an Interact project I took out as an example, which was led by Mark Deakin in 2011, focusing and supporting and strengthening the idea of technical economic innovation as the most important driving force for urban development. If you look on the empirical side, this is clearly the idea of Barcelona. If you look on the documents, the planning and smart city documents, you easily find such sentences that it has to enable knowledge, creativity, and innovation. And this is clearly followed in the smart city strategy of Barcelona. But you may even see and identify this idea of innovation in a city like Curitiba in Brazil, which has a long tradition in innovations of urban technology. And again, this was a document 3 weeks ago where the city planners of Curitiba emphasized that they want to go into this creative sector and the support of the creative sector in urban development. Yeah, and last but not least, the fourth understanding, which is our own, which we developed we are developing since some years. It is based on the idea that we have to see the city in a more integrative way, not in a sectoral way, but to what are the most important key fields of urban development. These are defined here in 6 key fields, but always to have in mind that it should be in a it should look in an integrative way on that. For us, it is, we even discussed this idea of competitiveness, and for us, it is not the idea to be the best or to give the city the idea to become the best one, because nobody knows what is the best situation for a city. We have so many different interests in cities, so it's not easy to say what is the best solution. But we have to acknowledge that cities are coping with different problems, and they have to look for an improvement to become better, but not to become the best one. So it's a little bit different from this competitiveness idea of this morning discussion. And of course, this has to be based on local evidence, what is going on in the city, how a city works, where does a city come from, and then the question comes up, how can we learn and how can we define the goals and the way to become better? And we do this in the following understanding. We do it on the one hand side with indicators which describe the key fields and certain fields of development. We call it domains, which we describe a broad set of indicators. So we get out quantitative information, which allows benchmarking, which allows a ranking. We did in 2007, we did a European Smart City ranking. But this is only one aspect. The other one is the learning process, what we want to support. And this we do with this indicator-based model in order to identify the most relevant key fields, to assess them, to discuss strengths and weaknesses. So this has to become an interaction between indicator-based evidence and perception and assessment of stakeholders, including NGOs, citizens, politicians, so in order to become a most prominent network working on a smart city development. This we are planning just now in two different projects. One is in Krakow, city in the south of Poland, where we started not with the indicator-based model, but with wonderful workshops on the 6 different key fields, with a lot of stakeholders from the urban region. And in order to elaborate the strengths and weaknesses, where does the city stand, what are the most important challenges, etc. So we're just in between in this process. Now probably we come even to a more indicator-based model, which we could apply, but this is not sure, and we will see whether this is necessary or not. So this is a long-lasting process of more than 1 year, I guess, and we will come up with a roadmap with defining strategic projects. The other one is planning energy efficiency. This is a project of the which is financed by the DG Energy as a framework 7 project, where we have 6 cities as partner cities. Turku is one of these partner cities. You see these partner cities here on the list. Tartu, second Finnish city, Eskilstuna, Astok, and Santiago. And here we started with this indicator-based model in order to identify what is the profile of a city. Where does a city, how does a city perform in terms of economy, in terms of people, of governance, mobility, living, and environment. And starting with that, we had a long discussion how to improve that, and most of all, in which domains finally can we expect potentials in order to improve energy efficient urban development. And this is the list which was worked out with our partner cities and experts in the different key fields which are defined here. And now it comes to this network approach is further evolved. It comes to workshops in the cities. It comes to more investigation and to proposals which kind of projects should be defined in order to bring this forward. To steer this discussion and this decision process, we elaborated something like energy efficiency potentials, which you can see here. This is the city of Turku with all these different domains, and indicating in the blue, dark blue line, this is the current contribution, whether it is already a good performance a city has, or the bright blue line indicates that it could be better if it is on that side. So this means performance could be improved, or in some cases like here on district heating, it is already a use potential. And this profile we did for the 6 cities, and the profiles are completely different. So this is for us the clear conclusion. One has to go into detail. It is not the technology as such which helps a city. One has to look, what does a city need? In which key fields, in which domains should city improve their energy efficient urban development? To come to the end, now we finished it, we go on in this PLEAG project. We have this evaluation of the current situation. Now it comes to the discussion of the innovation potentials with a respective project. So our understanding is a more process-oriented understanding. This means that we start discussion on local evidence, indicator-based. We do it via workshops or participation or network approach. So one has to look what is the best one, and to come to in order to come to a roadmap at the very end with for smart urban development. However, the aspect of monitoring I do not want to touch because of time. The city of Vienna is following a relative similar strategy as the city of Vienna has, if you look on these documents, they are distinguishing resources of urban development, of smart urban development, of innovation as an important aspect, and as a political notion, it has to improve quality of life. And quality of life means environmental issues, but it means most of all social issues, health, and social inclusion. This is another example of what is going on in Vienna. It's a smart idea because the urban energy provider is offering the possibility that citizens buy solar plugs. I'm finishing to buy solar plugs so that every one of us can decide himself, herself, how many plugs you want to buy. This enterprise of the city is organizing the installation and the production of energy, and you get out some benefits or some interests per year from this model. To come to an end, we do not understand the city as a sim city. A sim city is artificial. It has no history. It has. We have to acknowledge that cities are multidimensional in the interests, in the social trends. It is overlapping in a spatial context, and it is interacting between groups and neighborhoods. So the conclusions are clear. It is more than a sim city. It has to be integrative. It has to consider the path dependence of a city. And of course, a smart city development has to be based on sustainable urban development or sustainable innovations, urban innovations, not only technical, but there's an integration of social and technical innovations. And a sustainable urban development, therefore, needs urban innovations which come out from a place-based and local evidence. Thank you for attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Giffinger, and please remain on stage, have a seat for the panel.
Good.
And we'll save questions for the panel part of the session. And now I will welcome on the stage manager Volker Hessel from Siemens, who is leading projects on urban energy efficiency and sustainability in different parts of the world, and who is also co-chair of the World Business Council on Sustainable Development Urban Infrastructure Initiative. He contributed in key roles to this initiative, which is a global spearhead project to develop and test a completely new methodology for city business dialogues to advance strategies and create smart urban infrastructure solutions through cooperation, through co-creation between cities and companies that are developing these solutions. So, Mr. Hessel, please take the floor. Urban Infrastructure Initiative, a new approach for co-creation between cities and businesses. Please.
Thank you for the kind introduction, and good afternoon also from my side. Yeah, like Risto said, I'm here to represent the World Business Council of Sustainable Development, although I'm working for Siemens. But I was part of the initiative, the Urban Infrastructure Initiative, which was a pioneering approach to establish a new way of working between businesses and cities on the other hand. In the course of this project, which I'm about to present, we collaborated with 10 different cities across the world on sustainable development, but also on smart development in the cities. It was an early engagement approach, so meaning we try to engage with cities at a very early stage, kind of abandoning the traditional model, whereas businesses like Siemens or other companies would come in only to provide certain infrastructures, but more providing insights already in the development stage for strategies or action plans. In my presentation, I want to summarize the course of this initiative. We worked on this initiative for the past 3 years. Like I said, with many different cities across the world. We just published the final report for this, and I'm going to share the main recommendations and results of this initiative with you. So what is the World Business Council of Sustainable Development, which is a terribly long word, so I'm going to use the acronym from now on. It's a CEO-led initiative of more than 200 companies across the world who have a strong commitment towards sustainable development. The World Business Council exists to accelerate the adoption of new technologies or new ways of working to accelerate the sustainable development in different areas. So the Urban Infrastructure Initiative, for which I'm here, is one example. Other initiatives focus on different sectors to facilitate their sustainable development. Showing this nice graph. Also, I will start with a bit of background on the challenges, on the development. I think from this graph it becomes apparent that the world is increasingly urbanizing already now. More than 50% of the population is living in cities. Here you can see the percentage shares across the world, but also the really big cities with more than 10 million people. And this trend towards urbanization has, of course, or results in a couple of major challenges which we are about to face or are facing already. If you think about 7 billion people living in cities in 2050, and already today 70 to 80% of the global resources are consumed by people like probably all of us living in cities, then it becomes apparent that if this trend persists in the very near future, we kind of consume everything just to maintain our city life, and this trend cannot persist. So there's something we need to do about this. And coming from the business side, we think that this initiative, like the Urban Infrastructure Initiative, could be one additional cornerstone, one additional approach to help us all, or to help especially cities to adopt more sustainable, more smart ways of working, to adopt new technologies quicker and more efficiently. Because if we think about the planning processes or the adoption of new technologies, it's a really complex issue. I think all of us probably who are working in that field know that technology comes together with design parameters, with planning parameters, stakeholder engagement. So there are a lot of different parts which need to be considered. And we, coming from the business side, again, think that via an early engagement approach, we might be able to add something to the discussion within cities and to help making city action plans or strategies better, in a sense that they're able to implement new technologies quicker. So we think on one side, businesses or business is a key solution provider for new technologies on one end, but also when we speak about innovative technologies per se, looking at new ways of financing these, educating or discussing about what ways of financing are there to make sure that really these technologies are then later on used. So here on this slide you see on the upper part what's the kind of traditional way where we as a business or as businesses would come into play. So you have a city defining its own vision, where they want to be, how smart they want to be, how sustainable they want to be, in which areas, turning that into an action plan, defining measures, defining what is the roadmap, what do we do when, and then turning to implementation. This is when typically the business would come into place to answer to a certain tender. In the Urban Infrastructure Initiative, we thought about an alternative approach, meaning that a group of companies would engage with cities already before or during the process of developing an action plan. So to come up with joint concepts, which are more than just presenting, okay, what are the products, but really developing joint concepts on how to enhance the action plan, how to incorporate already in the action plan the right procedures, the right technologies, so that when we turn, or when the city later on turns to implementation, have the probability to achieve the desired target is improved. Urban Infrastructure Initiative was formed out of 14 companies, out of the World Business Council group of companies, stretching over, I think, quite a variety of different sectors. So you see Siemens or Cemex or GDF Suez or AECOM, so it stretches really from infrastructure to planning to energy generation, car manufacturers, logistic companies. So I think we really had a diverse group of companies bringing to the cities a complete or a very comprehensive picture about which solutions or technologies are out there. Not only were 14 companies working in the Urban Infrastructure Initiative together with cities, I also want to highlight that we were tremendously dependent and gladful to be able to work with a couple of bridging organizations. Bridging organizations for us played the role of establishing the contact between a city and helping to facilitate the discussion between us coming from a business side and a city on the other side. So kind of a diplomat in the middle, if you like. Especially want to highlight ICLE here, who helped us tremendously in Europe, establishing the contact with the city of Turku, who was the very first city and for which I was very glad to be the project manager a couple of years back for our engagement there, but also for Tilburg, where we also had a city engagement. I mentioned in the beginning we worked in this initiative, which was the purpose to showcase across the globe how this new way of working, what are the benefits of this. We worked with 10 different cities. You see in Mexico, we worked with a city. We worked in the US with Philadelphia, in Europe with Turku and Tilburg. 4 cities in Gujarat state in India, but also with cities in China and in Japan. So stretching really across the world, covering a wide group of different cultural backgrounds, of different development stages, if you like. And I think this model of early engagement, working or bringing different stakeholder groups together, meaning the businesses, cities, but also bridging organizations, proved to be a valid model in all of these cities so far. Out of this projects which we did with the cities, and you can find the report about these 10 cities on the World Business Council's website. It's just been published a couple of weeks back. A few key findings and implications for engagement or for working together. On one end, this early strategic engagement, which is, it might be years before the actual implementation of a technology, is kind of a testimony of the city leader, that this development path is really taken serious in a sense that it involves different groups and also, of course, us coming from the business side, the ones who have to implement it later on, the strategies. I think we have applied this model very successfully in 10 different cities of working together, and I'm going to show a bit more details, or going into a bit more details on what we did with Turku on the next page. What we assisted cities with is to identify what innovative solutions are available or in development, and how they could be applied in the city's context. Because especially, I mean, if we talk about complex infrastructures, complex technologies, it's very critical, as you all know, to have the local context in mind to make sure that the implementation concept is adapted to the local requirements. But also having an integrated approach, so not only we as the companies, you could see it from the Urban Infrastructure Initiative member companies, which was quite a diverse group of companies. Not only we did or tried to break down the barriers between us working together with cities, but doing the same on the city side, so really facilitating also a cross-silo approach, if you like. So bringing together different companies, but also different city departments to work together on really integrated solutions. Financing and implementation strategies. So like I said before, not only looking at what's the technology, but also how can I make this happen in my city? So meaning, what is the way of financing this? What is a viable solution to implement this? And then, of course, also making the link to the local development. So what is really the local impact, the impact on the local economy, and also sharing not only local practices, but also tapping into the expert potential of these global companies to make sure that we have also knowledge sharing from global best practices or global practices with the cities with which we engage. So Turku, like I mentioned before, I was lucky to be the project manager for our very first engagement a couple of years back as the Urban Infrastructure Initiative. And in Turku, we concentrated on 3 different sectors, if you like. We concentrated on transportation, energy supply, and energy use. And jointly, together with the city administration, worked on concepts which not only are in one of these sectors, but also stretch across the different sectors. With different technological concepts, of course, whether it be light rail, whether it be biogas for buses, but also stretching then to, again, financing models or really implementation pathways. So again, this was just one example of the many cities we did, and let's say these topics on which we concentrate always varied from city to city. Again, mentioning the bridging organizations, where they are very helpful to guide us what kind of companies or kind of expertise is required for a specific city. What are their challenges? What kind of people do we have to bring to the table? So really the sectors which I just mentioned, they're really varied from city to city to make sure that we address the right topics, but also bring the right people to the table. Key success factors from our perspective, having done all these projects, one and foremost is support of the city leadership to make sure that this is really a visible initiative in the city, and that everyone within the city administration, but also of course from the companies, is committed to work on this. These projects need to come top down, especially as they stretch beyond different departments. They're really a cross-divisional or cross-sectoral approach. I think what was kind of unique was the exchange between city experts and business experts, let's say, detached from the discussion in actual tenders or actual implementation projects. So more on a strategic level, bringing our experts together with experts from the city to discuss about, okay, what's the best action plan, what's the best technological component in an action plan for the city at a very early stage. Another factor being bringing together the local context, whether it be from the city or kind of the local department of a company, together really with this global pool of expertise and worldwide know-how, which we were able to bring to the table. And again, bridging organizations, we as the business don't have the answer to our questions. We provide a certain perspective, but for us it was very important to complement this with the expertise of bridging organizations like ICLEI, like others who helped us really to identify the right topics, but also to be kind of a guider or guiding organization for our engagement with the different cities. Where do we think this makes sense to be applied? I mean, we've tested it now in a couple of cities, if you like, with this initiative over the past 3 years. We think this model of engaging a group of companies together with the city really makes sense when we think about climate change mitigation plans, adaptation, but also resilience planning. So again, very strategic discussions. But also if we think about brownfield or greenfield development, so about city districts being planned, mobility as one aspect as well, making the link between public transportation, individual transportation, but also if we think about the deployment of new infrastructures, I'd say complex new infrastructures, where it really is required to have a detailed upfront evaluation of the possibilities. And then also, last point, when we think about economic development strategies, so how to combine, again, green economic aspects together with job growth in a city, I think then it makes sense to work together with an initiative like the UI. Recommendations, and I'm close to the end for cities. So, of course, we think it makes really sense to work with businesses at this early stage, not only later on when it comes to implementation, but also stretching the engagement beyond businesses to really involve a wide group of stakeholders into the consultation process. But to also clearly define what is the scope of the early engagement setting, for what do you need a business at your table in this early planning stage, and to make sure that also on the city side, the coordination between the different departments is ensured, because it would be a pity if, let's say, such an engagement would be kind of locked into one department and not being able to reach out also to other departments to involve their views. For businesses, I personally really believe in this, that it really makes sense also for business to get engaged with the city, to understand what are really the requirements and where can the technology be implemented later on. And to collaborate also with other businesses. So also opening up beyond the own limitations of its own company, but also working together with a group of companies. And for international organizations, for us it was really enriching to work together with NGOs or organizations like ICLE, who helped us bringing their view and kind of moderating such an engagement. So that was really helpful for us. So coming to the end, I hope I didn't use too much time. I hope I was able to give you an overview of our engagement with cities and to present you a kind of alternative model for engagement between cities and businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and please have a seat so you're ready for more discussions at the panel. And then it's time for our third and last keynote speaker, Mr. Hannes Astok, Director of the Smart City Lab in Tartu, Estonia. And Hannes is also a former Member of Parliament of Estonia and a former Deputy Mayor of Tartu. So he has a rich perspective on the topic. And during this spring and last winter, Hannes and his team at the Smart City Lab have worked on a Baltic Sea regional report on smart cities, proposing some action and some networking to be developed and taken now for the future. So please take the floor and please use your time, as I think we can take 5 or 10 minutes from queuing for the coffee for the discussion at the panel. So please take the floor.
Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hannes Astok. I'm coming from Tartu, Estonia, and I'm working for the Smart City Lab Tartu, what is cooperation organization between the city, between the industry, and universities. So we got the task to develop a concept for the Baltic Sea region urban forum for the smart cities. And it was a very interesting task for us to discuss the issues and to develop a model how the cities, businesses, universities, and citizen organizations can work together and develop smart cities. Definitely, today, if you are looking to this field, we see a lot of challenges. First of all, actually, I haven't met any mayor who says that, "Hi, I'm John, I'm coming from stupid city." All of them like to come from the smart city, and definitely every city, wherever it's located, however big or small it is smart in some sense. And almost the cities are doing a lot of innovation already, either maybe they are not recognizing it at all. But the problem what cities are facing is that we are lacking access to the innovative solutions, both on the levels of other cities, what other cities are doing, and in the level of the technical solutions, what is provided by the businesses. And it was described very well in the previous presentation that the access to the technological information and cooperation with the businesses is in many cases in very initial phase. So there is a lack of cooperation, there is a lack of knowledge and information, and for sure we need to be sure that if we developing a new concepts and new tools and new proposals for the cities, everything must be economically efficient and beneficial for the cities. This time is totally over when cities had big budgets and there was a lot of room for the long-term projects, long-term cooperation, long-term mayors, cognac tourism and other activities. This is over. Everybody, every city wants to see the benefits, economical benefits. If I'm entering to a project, spending the money, I need to get it back in the total cost of ownership, one or another activities. Either it's the social services, either it's the infrastructure development. Also, there is for the businesses, as described in the previous presentation, there are a lot of opportunities. How to share the knowledge with the cities in the way that it's not only selling proposal, it must be kind of cooperation, knowledge sharing in the honest manner. And also there is a missing cooperation opportunities and cooperation models, how to share the knowledge with the cities in early phase of planning. Not only after the procurement is announced, but early before it, just to discuss and to invent what is really the best solution for the city for the long term in the future. Otherwise, if we enter into a discussion with businesses only after the procurement is announced, we are just buying the lowest price and most probably getting the very old technology, because the old technology is just the cheap one, not the latest one. And for the citizens, also there is a problem that inclusion to the decision-making process is still relatively low. It is well advanced in many general political cases in many cities in the Baltic Sea region, but if it becomes to a discussion that what is the best street lighting system for the city, or what is the best public transportation system for my city, the citizens are almost excluded, because the traditional understanding is that citizens don't know anything about the public transportation except they can use it. They can buy the ticket and enter the bus. But we never ask, almost never asking from them, what do you think, what is the latest technology? So would you like to see the electrical transport? Or you like to see hybrid transportation? Or how we can invent together? How much are you ready to pay from the city budget to be a carbon dioxide emission-free city? This is what we need to ask from them and discuss with them. And definitely we need a transparency in those processes, so citizens want to understand how the businesses are involved. Is it just, is the cooperation is transparent? Is the city governance in general is transparent enough? Well, what did we invent? Our task was to answer the question how to support all Baltic Sea region or Union of Baltic cities in the transformation being smart cities. And what we invented a plan or concept, and we'd like to see that Baltic Sea region will be one of the most innovative region where all the cities are actively involved in the innovation process and actively cooperating with the businesses, with the citizens, with the universities to be smart and assist in the way also the businesses who are active in the region to be successful globally. So we divided this process into 3 layers. The city layer, the Baltic Urban Forum layer, what is regional cooperation, and also organizational platform. And definitely we see the benefits from this process both in the Europe-wide and globally. So let me take it to the pieces and briefly tell you what is the plan. So in the city level, we have 5 steps: assessment, intervention, action, evaluation, and follow-up, and what we mean by those terms. So we like to start from this process. If a city like to become smart, innovative, sustainable in the sense of innovation, we start from from assessment, and we use the same methodology. We like to use it like it was used in Pleak project or Professor Giffinger, other ideas. So have an evaluation of a city, who you are, what is your current situation, what are your needs. So the assessment of the needs to be more smarter is kind of entrance level of a city to join the Baltic Urban Forum activities, mapping the overall situation, finding mutual attractive topics and common issues with other cities, and afterwards, as a next step, start to act together. So the next step is intervention. We'd like to gather the cities with similar goals, with similar challenges, or you can call them problems, to one lot, and then jointly start to invent what we can do together and how we can solve those problems or meet the challenges. So if there is a group of cities who like to improve properly their street lighting and not only change the bulbs to the next generation bulbs, but also make a city street lighting adaptive, energy saving, and properly functioning according to the demand of the citizens. So we can gather this group of cities, jointly work with the businesses, with the universities, and with the citizens to understand properly what is the next generation solution, what is sustainable not only for the next 5 years, but maybe for the next 20 years. Work together with businesses to understand the latest technologies, find the suitable business models, and jointly understand what is our real needs and what we should procure. And if this intervention is jointly done, we can move to the action level. So to create practical added value, conduct joint procurements, or at least based on the same ideology, collectively assess the implementation, and work together about the implementation process. And in this stage, we are planning to, during the next couple of years, to do at least 3 pilots to showcase the process and the benefits, and then test the platform and the model. And the 4th step is evaluation. So we'd like also access each other's results using experts and peer reviews and promote the idea. And I think the honest evaluation is very important, and we can use experts from one city coming to another and evaluating the real process, because you can find a lot of best practices in the net, but you never find bad practices. What is true, because nobody likes to show what is the bad practice. But actually we need those failures also, because if we don't know what actually happens and we only read that it was successful, we never learn from each other properly. And definitely at the end of the process, we need to collect the results and promote the concept, the results and activities properly. Well, what is the Baltic Urban Forum as a platform? First of all, it's a communication platform, allowing cities to communicate with each other, share the best practices and maybe worst practices, and understand what other cities are actually doing. Also, it's a marketplace, bringing together cities, companies, universities, so allowing companies, cities, universities to raise their hand and ask, we have a problem, we like to solve it, and companies and universities provide the solutions. We have solutions, if somebody is interested, let's communicate, let's work together. And it's also competence and assistance network, so we can cooperate and assist each other, share the knowledges, share the existing experiences. And it's also mentoring center. In many cities we have a lot of talented engineers, city mayors, business administrators who are happy and able to assist and mentor also other cities in their domain. In European level, it's very valuable if we can share the knowledge about the Baltic Sea region as a most innovative region and share our experiences, what we have learned in our region, and also assist the companies, maybe startups and SMEs also, who are active already in our region, go further to Europe. And the same appears in global level to present the Baltic Sea region and Europe as one of the most innovative regions in the world, and assist also companies to go further with solutions already approved here. What are the next steps? We are developing the business model and the organization, and we like to see the pilots starting soon, hopefully financed from the Interreg project in the region. And also I'd like to underline the key principles. We'd like to see the organization, the Baltic Urban Forum, as an organization owned jointly by the stakeholders. Otherwise, it's not if it's not owned by the stakeholders, it will be a traditional consultancy company. But when it's owned by the stakeholders, it provides another dimension because all the stakeholders who are involved can benefit from the results of those processes, and it must be open and transparent. The cooperation with the stakeholders, especially with the businesses, must be very transparent, so everybody will understand that if one or other company who is participating in the process, it must be clear what is allowed and what is not allowed, and how the companies who are participating are selected. Also, the organization and the business model must be sustainable. It cannot be subsidized by the cities or by the organizations. It must be sustainable, and if a city participates in the project and pays in 100,000 euros, it must be clear that from the results what he's getting and knowledge what he's getting from this process, he's gaining back the money soon in long-term investments. So if a city invests 100,000 euros to a 2 years preparation project to improve the street lighting, he must be sure that he's getting this money back in 10-year time already, not in as a 100,000 euro, but maybe 2 million euros in saving of energy. And also, I'd like to underline that EU funds use is welcomed, but it's not the project just to absorb EU funds. As said, it must be sustainable. So thank you very much. We are now starting to plan the pilot projects, and the paper copies of the concepts are available here also, and definitely it's available in the internet also. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hannes. Thank you for presenting this initiative where the Baltic Development Forum and also UBC have contributed very much. Now it's time to invite the panelists on the stage. Virpi Mikkonen, Manager for Smart Cities from Tekes, the Finnish funding agency for innovation. She's in charge of the development project for smart cities in Finland with a budget of 100 million euros. Please come on stage. And Amalj Samerkhanova from Environment Center for Administration and Technology, Kaliningrad, Head of Unit for International Projects. Please take your seat. And Krista Kampus, Head of Baltic 21 Unit at the Council of Baltic Sea States, who also backed this project proposal, please. Torben Aaberg, Head of Public Affairs at Baltic Development Forum and very experienced from county and state level in Denmark. And Hannes, and then we had Inete Lelite from City of Riga, but I was informed that she couldn't make it, unfortunately. So thank you and welcome all on the panel, and let's have from you, each of you, a brief self-introduction and a brief comment on the keynote speeches. Are you now full of optimism and you think that the future for Baltic Sea region, smart cities, is bright ahead, or what is your feeling at the moment? And as there are some technicalities here, we start from Virpi, please.
Okay. Thank you. So as Risto kindly already introduced me, I come from Tekes, the Finnish funding agency for innovation, which is the main public funding agency in Finland. And I am a manager for our smart city program, which is not called smart city because that buzzword is so used, so we call it a witty city. But anyway, we are encouraging cities to open their innovations, the investments to innovations. For example, when the cities are building new neighborhoods, we encourage them to take the new solutions in use. And this way, we also help the new solutions get to the market. And especially for the small and medium-sized companies, it is crucial to get their first commercial references in this smart city settings, in the real environments, to test them with the cities and to test them with the users.
So solutions and products for smart cities could be one field of growth for Baltic Sea region among SMEs.
Yes, yes. We see this smart city development as a huge business potential for companies in Finland and of course in the whole Baltic region. And I believe that Baltic Sea region could become easily a forerunner in this field because we are already known pretty well as forerunners in energy efficient and sustainable construction. And as was mentioned in the keynotes before, that we must move from the building level to the city level. And I think it's just to take this step and to bring these integrated solutions to this city level, because we have great solutions now on building level. So
okay,
just move up, scale.
You are supporting what Rudolph Giffinger was saying.
Definitely.
Okay. Then Amalj, you have worked for a long time in ECAT in Kaliningrad, and ECAT is of course well known in Baltic Sea region cooperation for its excellent work in support of cities and authorities and regions on environment and also a wider range of topics. What is your reflection at this point, and what would you like to share with us?
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm here not on my own. I was asked by a small municipality in Kaliningrad region to come and to ask Mr. Astok for allowance for this small municipality to join the urban forum. They really deserved that. Of course, they're really shy, and they would never shout that they're smart. And I should say that they're smart. It's Gurjevsk municipality in Kaliningrad region, and really proud of them. They're really nice guys there. First of all, they implemented the NEFCO project quite successfully, and they shared their experience with others, not only in Kaliningrad region. Second, they created the climatic plan. Doesn't matter that there is no such requirement, legally binded requirement. They just decided that they need this climatic plan because they need to be in trend. They need to be ready if this planning would be introduced in Russia very soon. So we like them for this also. But third, they decided to participate in an international project, and project was prepared 3 years ago, and there was no intention for them to be smart or to at least to try to be smart. But they put all their efforts in order to implement a pilot, and now they have special solar panels and LED street lighting, and the system smart technically, and we could really say that our colleagues and the municipality is absolutely smart. And if you ask me again why it is possible to be smart and to be forerunner in smart trends in the Baltic Sea region, I could say that I'm sure that it is possible, because if everyone would be like this, our municipality, they would live with passion to innovation, with understanding of value of cooperation, because cooperation is a labor itself. You know, it's you share and someone would share with you. You would be friendly and someone would be friendly with you. And a third issue that I would mention about these guys, they are really eager to communicate about the progress, about the successes and about failures of their project. And it's very valuable, because dissemination is the third point that gives us this potential to be smart. Okay. You can't be smart on your own. It's not interesting.
Good. You cannot be smart on your own, and you don't have to be big to be smart. And probably you don't have to be very rich either to be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hannes, Amalj has brought some cities with her to join the forum.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcomed. Okay, thank you for that. And Krista Kampus, you are head of Sustainable Development and Environment Unit at Council of Baltic Sea States Secretariat. And early on in the preparation of the Baltic Urban Forum for Smart Cities, you supported the proposal with a letter of endorsement, and you have also taken part at the meetings. What is your comment at this point, and how do you see the progress? I think you were last time in a Baltic Urban Forum for Smart Cities event in January or somewhere in the winter. Are you happy with what you saw today?
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely, I'm very happy. Thank you, Hannes. What I would like to say at first, how we are acting as the Council of the Baltic Sea States and as the Secretariat. So I would say that we are acting as the bridging organization. We are the ones who are really trying to bring together different stakeholders, to bring together businesses, public sector actors, but also NGO and civil society, different stakeholders and actors, because I really think that the involvement and the engagement of all different stakeholders is extremely important when it comes to developing more sustainable, low-carbon economy for the Baltic Sea region. I would also say that I can see a lot of potential here in the Baltic Sea region. Just if you look at different scoring lists elaborated using by different criteria, then 4 Baltic Sea region cities out of 7 are among the countries having the biggest proportion of the smart cities. So I would say that shows already that we have actually a lot of initiatives in the cities we can spread and we can use in much better way. Sorry. Then also Northern Europe and Nordic cities are forerunners of smart governance initiatives. That is again another issue that could be further explored and also to introduce to also other cities around the Baltic Sea. Also taking into account that 2 of the Baltic Sea region cities are among of the top 10 smartest cities of the world. Berlin and Copenhagen. So I would say that there are a lot of potential. Okay. And in that sense, I would say that the initiative to establish an urban platform for smart cities for the Baltic Sea region is really very, very useful and valuable initiative. And also what I'm kind of, when I listened to the presentation of Professor, you mentioned the indicators. So maybe this platform could be also the one who is elaborating indicators for the Baltic Sea region, trying to harmonize the approaches and practices in order to make the services and goods provided by the citizens more low carbon and environmentally sustainable.
So you see there a great potential not only for the cities, but for the countries and for the whole region.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can't talk about innovation without engaging cities and without smart cities.
Okay. In the introduction to the session, there was used the concept of pockets of smartness, and Torben, you definitely come from a pocket of smartness, but it's a rather large pocket because I think the Öresund region is recognized globally as one of the most interesting and dynamic regions with new solutions. There's Copenhagen with all of its projects and Malmö and also smaller cities and municipalities there. What would you bring from that pocket to us and from BDF perspective, please?
Thank you, Risto. Yeah, I'm not an expert in smart cities, but I know something about cross-border collaboration and public-private dialogue, which I'd like to bring forward to this discussion. And as you know, BDF is happy to be one of the partners behind this Baltic Urban Forum pilot projects, and that will hopefully develop into something more sustainable in the next phase. But we have at Baltic Development Forum, working as a public-private bridge. Somehow we also have a lot of cities in our network. And we know that several of these cities are very engaged already in the smart city process, and you mentioned one of them, Malmö. We also have, of course, Turku here. We have Oslo, Hamburg, city of Kiel as a new BDF partner. It seems that there is a momentum now for building some kind of platform for these experiences, and it seems that many cities already have their plans and strategies maybe not ready, but at least they're preparing them. So what we need now is to go straight to the practical part and to showcase the experiences that are already made in order to inspire each other. I think it's important that we do not start with developing new concepts. We should start with the needs and the priorities of the cities. And that's some of the, I think, the promising parts of the Baltic Urban Forum thinking is that, and maybe we should go even more direct to that phase. I noticed also that I don't think we should put too much emphasis in the initial phase on the mapping and assessment. Of course, there has to be some, but it should not work as a kind of entrance ticket to the Baltic Urban Forum. That should be driven by the enthusiasm, the engagement of the cities. And I think it's also very important to build confidence, not just I mean, between the cities, but also between the public and private sector. This is really much based on confidence. As it says also in the concept paper, of course there is competition between the cities or the pockets. Who's the best? We're better than our neighboring city or the other one in the other country, so we're not going to show them anything of our experiences or our lessons learned. And that is to some extent a healthy thinking, but it should not take over. We need to go right straight to the joint learning, which is also a basic aspect in this project thinking. And of course the transparency, and what was also said by Siemens, also an important BDF partner, I would say, that we should early involve the business in order to build the confidence from the very beginning. So I think we should just go straight to one of the important part of the Baltic Urban Forum thinking is the marketplace. I think that's one of the first things to set up, actually, because that's where we can get short-term results out of this. And the interest is now. So it's just to get going, and I don't think there will be any losers, only winners.
Thank you very much for adding some good points to the recipe of BUF, and cities actually are also marketplaces, and I think Danish and Swedish cities have been particularly wise and successful in supporting the clean tech image of the whole country, and this has been a recent discussion in Finland that our cities should, for instance, move away from coal and be in line with the image of our industries and of our technologies and companies who want to strive for clean tech, and that's the fastest growing business sector in Finland during the last years, or one of the fastest growing. From the keynotes, would you like to respond to the panel? They made several comments that are relevant to each of you. Would you like to provide some? Giffinger, you're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, many thanks for the comments. One information, there is already a project going on in Denmark, including not only the cities but all municipalities. So with our approach. So this indicator-based approach is just now, it is developed within one country. In Denmark, we did a similar project for Austrian cities last year, so it is, this is an ongoing process. I would like to make one provocative comment in reflection on this notion that business should be involved earlier. I'm a planner, and my experience is that planning is doing concepts, and then when it comes to realization, planning is not involved anymore. So I'm asking and expecting that planning will be involved during the whole process, and not only in the first stage. So it's the other perspective. Yeah.
And you refer to city planning here.
Yeah. Yes. Maybe if I can add to that, I think what you just said shows to me, I think that the problem is that it's a fragmented approach at the moment. It's not only, let's say, coming from the business that say, okay, it makes sense to involve us at an early stage. It's also from your perspective that you say, okay, it makes sense to involve you constantly. I think it's, in general, we need an enhanced stakeholder engagement throughout the process and an enhanced collaboration between the different silos, so to say. It's not only that I'm saying, because it's really fragmented at the moment, and I think this is what needs to be changed.
Hannes and then Krista.
I think we reached very interesting discussion, what was mentioned also earlier in the keynotes, that what is the situation? Is it technology-driven or policy-driven? And we are now facing the situation that the technology is developing so fast that you can do a good policy development, but on the same time, technology develops so fast that when your policy is ready after 3 years, the technology offers totally different solutions already, what we see with social media and other things. So that's why I think the clear, transparent and honest cooperation between the policy planners that technology offers, it must be kind of hand in hand, otherwise we are missing something.
Krista.
Yeah, the question is whether it should be policy-driven or technology-driven, but my question is rather that maybe it should be citizens-driven. So, and that is also related with planning, because I think that when you are planning how to provide new services and goods for the citizens, how to improve the living conditions of the citizens, then I think that the first you have to be in dialogue with the citizens, because they are end users. And you have to map what are their needs and expectations. And then, of course, you have to work with businesses in order to see and to find the solutions on how these needs can be addressed in the best potential way by using new technologies. And also, there was a question on the paper, you didn't ask it yet. The question was that how to, we have the cities in very different size, and not all solutions fits everybody. So we have been working with one project which is related with energy efficiency in constructions in municipalities, and we have been working with very small municipalities. And when we started with that project, which is also one of the flagship projects of the Baltic Sea strategy, so when we started, our aim was to try to identify and find high-tech solutions. But now we are in the middle of the project implementation, and now actually it came up when we mapped the needs for smaller municipalities, including the cities and towns. It came up that actually they doesn't have the capacity, and that is maybe related to what you said, or maybe just your address, that they doesn't actually have the capacity and resources in order to make high-tech investments. And sometimes smart municipality or smart city is actually using low-tech solutions, which are very simple solutions, which is kind of reinventing of what we have had, what our grandfathers and grandmothers used. So I think that is also very important when we are talking about innovation. We definitely can't forget all very wise solutions we already have there, because we have municipalities and cities who will not be able, or at least they are not able at the moment, to make investments to high-tech or clean-tech solutions.
And then there is this risk of lock-ins as well. It was Virpi, and then Amalj, and then we will see if someone from the audience would like to make a comment or question. But Virpi first, and then Amalj.
I just wanted to kind of continue and confirm what the previous speaker said, that the public procurement processes are the key here also. So how to involve the end users and how to find the real needs and how to involve the market there, so that you have this continuous dialogue with also what is available, so that you don't lose the sense.
Procurement. Amalj.
I was completely agree with Krista concerning the this idea that maybe sometimes low-tech solutions could be solutions, and also I would raise the problem that sometimes small municipalities, they could receive some investments, no matter from which sources. It could be a grant, it could be some federal funding, and then the problem is that they could be handed this high-tech solution, and they could be very happy with that, etc., etc. But then they come to this phase when they can't exploit this facility, for example, because their budget is much lower than the operation costs. So it's a kind of really tricky. And when it was mentioned in the beginning that capacity assessment is kind of in need, then it's really in need.
So if Siemens has any low-tech available.
Yeah, please.
But that's a rhetoric question we give to Torben.
I'll try to find out.
You can think about it.
Think about
it. Torben, you wanted to comment, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a brief comment to the regional aspect of this, regional perspective, because I think there is a reason for that this is called the Baltic Sea Region Urban Forum. Because I think, and that may be also part of when we are going to sell this story to citizens and to businesses, to companies, and to attract them into this initiative, because I think we have at least 4 areas where we have very, very good competences, also in a global context. One is the clean tech, the second is the digital solutions, the third one being high environmental standards, and we've had that for many years, and the fourth being a long tradition for collaboration, not just across the border, but also public-private. And I think these are strongholds that should be also selling points to attract stakeholders into this initiative and attract the interest, of course, also outside this region.
Absolutely. That's a very valuable point, and at the same time, they are really our strengths for the profiling also. Now, if anybody from the audience would like to contribute with a question or comment, I think we have a mic somewhere, so over there, please. Lady there. Please present yourself and...
All right.
Yeah.
Shall I go here or can I stay at my place? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Volker. I represent Baltic University program. And I would appreciate if honorable speakers will comment on the following point/question. No wonder that urbanization arises the problem of the density of population, as well as security of private data and actually presence of private space. So what smart solutions can smart cities bring to the table in the sphere of private space of people and overpopulation, let's say? What solutions are smart here? Thank you in advance.
Thank you. Who would like to comment on this question? Any volunteers? Hannes, please.
Yeah, I think it was a very good question, but it's a little bit controversial because people who are moving to the cities, they like to live close to each other. So they are accepting that there is a little space for living. And those who don't want to come to the cities live remotely. And they have a lot of space. So, but definitely it's a kind of process that, and people live more and more in the digital space actually, not very privately. And if you're asking about the privacy of the data, it's definitely a long story. I think one of the good answers is that we don't need to worry about the big brother or the government, but we need to worry about the little sister who is like chatting about you, and we are chatting about ourselves and our friends in Facebook and other social media already too much, so there's not that much secrets what we are not opened by ourselves.
Okay, let me guess, you did not have a big brother, but you had a small sister in the family. Yeah, but thanks for the comment, and anybody else from the audience would like to contribute? Here, please.
So welcome, my name is Artur. I'm also a member of Baltic University program. First of all, thank you all speakers for turning our side of important matters connected with smart solutions. I want just to refer to one of latest thoughts about city the cities for its citizens, because I have a reflection connected with that. Because there is, let's say, easy to implement smart solutions to new buildings, new designs, to transport public buildings, industrial buildings, but me as a civil engineer see one problem that what about old buildings and single family housing? Because connecting with old houses, sometimes they are not in good shape to implement such solutions. There are not good installations there and materials. And for single family housing, perhaps people will focus on build new house and not expensive costs. But if people would like to use smart solutions, estimated payback time of investment will be too long, and they are not choosing that option.
Thank you for the question. It is true that the existing building stock is a major energy consumer, and is it okay if we give this for response now?
Yes.
Okay.
I will be grateful.
Okay. Thank you. I invite Volker Hessel to respond on this, and while you are responding, I ask the rapporteur of the session to come on the podium, please. So, Volker, please.
I think in general it's no question that, let's say, the refurbishment rate for existing buildings is too low. In general, if we speak about 1%, maybe a bit more or less, it's not enough if in a short time we want to make sure that these old buildings become more efficient, become smarter. I think the solution is not only in the technology, and it's more about, I personally think, more in innovative ways of financing. For example, performance contracting, or so, where you, as an owner of the building, kind of give the task of modernizing the building to somebody else, and it's paid by the saved energy cost, for example. I think these models need to be more widespreadly adopted, but this is then a task for the city administration and for the policymakers to make sure that these models can be applied widely, because it's the concept is easily explained, but it's still not applied to all buildings where it makes sense. And this is, I think, a point where it's up to the policymakers to make sure that this can be implemented.
Thank you very much. And now we have the report from the session. Olena Cincsuk from UBC Environment and Sustainable Development Secretariat has been taking notes, and she will try to summarize the 3 key points of the discussion. And then you will still have your final comments on these key points, and then we will end.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for very interesting presentations and comments and round of discussion. I think all of you have agreed that Baltic Sea region has a great potential to become a forerunner as a center for smart cities, because even though we have greatly recognized big metropolitan areas like Öresund region and like Stockholm, like Helsinki, like Riga, but there are also small municipalities, and all of them want to be smart. All of them are willing to be referred as smart, innovative cities, and also all of them have the willingness to work jointly for the image of the region. I think this is very crucial. And at this point, I think Mr. Giffinger expressed the opinion that this approach into developing a smart city has to be not technological, however, intersectoral. When we come up with integrated solutions that touch upon all the sectors, all the departments of the cities involved, not only when it comes to, let's say, urban transportation or energy efficiency. So the approach has to be integrated, and because, as Virpi mentioned, we already have cities that are energy efficient and so on. Now we need a holistic, smart approach towards this. And some other key points that were mentioned, I would say, is the involvement of the, first of all, support of the leadership, which is political commitment, but also then comes the other side of this issue is the involvement of the citizens, which also have something to say, which are crucial when it comes to defining the needs of the cities as a reference point. And apart from that, I think one of the also most important points was to involve private sector, and I think also NGOs and so on at the very initial stage of planning, of the initial stage of development of smart solutions. As then, as Mr. Hessel said, we will have much better chances with receiving a result that corresponds to the initially identified needs. And overall, I would say that also very, very important point was that what Amalj mentioned, that we need to orient on the enthusiasm of the cities. This is what makes the region unique. This is what makes them wanting to cooperate. So not only the leadership, but the workers, the interdepartmental workers of the municipalities that want to make the region smart. Thank you. Do you have any?
Oh, thank you very much. I think it was good, and I have nothing to add. But I will give a final word to each panelist, just your brief conclusion, if you still like to take the floor. So we just go in order, and Professor Giffinger, you're welcome to start. But just briefly, we have to close soon.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it was well elaborated and emphasized that we should not think and behave in silos. This is one of the most important preconditions if we talk about the city. And my impression is that in many discussions we still do not understand what consequences this has not to think in pilots.
Okay, thank you very much. And Volker Hessel.
Adding to this, I also think that let's say nobody has kind of the silver bullet to solve this issue. Yeah, there is no one. But I think if we find ways of better working together along the process, I think we can come up with a good joint solution.
Okay. Companies and cities together.
Yeah, but also other stakeholder groups and NGOs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Hannes Astok.
Yeah, thank you. I was very much encouraged for the comments you were giving, and I think now it's time for the actions, because as you know, in the business world, you cannot sleep, you must run all the time, either to keep the same position. So I think now it's time for the actions, and I invite all the citizens and businesses to join the process, and we're trying already at the end of the summer to announce the next actions, and everybody is welcome.
Thank you. Virpi, Mikkonen.
I think it's great that everybody agrees that all cities want to be smart, and I hope that cities develop strong visions and strong strategies to become smart. They have to be unique in their own way, smart in their own way, and I hope that being smart in their own way, they can allow to compete with each other, because then they are not stepping each other's ground.
Thank you, and Amalj Samerkhanova.
Yeah, thank you everyone for such great input, because it was real pleasure to understand all these trends, and we really like this word smart, and I hope that the real success could be achieved only with joining all the efforts from business, from media, from NGOs, from local people, etc., etc. And now it's time for this multiple helix.
Multiple helix. Good, we take that on board, I think. Krista, Kampus, please.
Yes, just once again I would like to stress that it shouldn't be only technologically driven, politically driven, but also citizens driven. That is the most important. Cooperation, absolutely. Holistic approach is absolutely needed, because I think these times are over where you can make business as usual and that work only and focus only on very specific sectors. You really need collaboration across the sectors and between different stakeholders. But also what I would like to say is that now it is the time, because we have a lot of potential and a lot of good examples, a couple of them we just heard in the morning session. Now it is time to extend and to expand these good projects and initiatives and best practices also to smaller cities and towns, exactly by using this platform of the smart cities in order to achieve a real change and real impact for the whole Baltic Sea region.
Thank you. Now is the time, and now is the time also to thank all the speakers and to thank the audience and to close the session. Thank you so much. And coffee is available, and I think many of us will be there at the lobby, so if you have more comments, you're welcome to approach us and have a discussion